I liked you but I didn't like you. In spite of being rejected, she was happy and found another way. Our main character named Tu Hai and she secretly fell for the boy in the upper class. She fell for Zhang then for a long time, so she always waited for him to go to school together. But he always rejected. Although he appeared cold, he expressed unpleasant. But Tu Hai still wanted to purchase him. On a beautiful morning, the class was working in the schoolyard. Tu Hai saw Zhang then sweeping alone and decided to start a conversation. This year, Tu Hai and he also studied the same class as ever before. While discussing the final grades, Tu Hai glanced around and approached Zhang then to confess her love feelings. I liked you. Although she was rejected, she cheerfully ran off, promising to find another way. Tonight Tu Hai went online to see how she could attract Zhang then and pursue him. The next morning, when the monitor collected homework, Tu Hai quickly grabbed the classmates' assignments and copied from it. Seeing Zhang then enter the classroom, Tu Hai loudly declared that today's lesson was really simple. She had finished long ago, and during the break, Zhang then went to get water from the fountain. Tu Hai was standing with her friend who had eaten all 5 dumplings. Seeing him, he shook his head and said that the assignment was simple, but the essay was a bit difficult. It was about chasing her dream, but she could write more than 1,000 words. Zhang then coldly said that the title was A Righteous God, not The Pursuit of Dreams. Entering the class, the teacher slammed Tu Hai's work down and scolded loudly. In terms of taking the English exam and still missed the topic, saying that, the teacher read out loud Tu Hai's ranking and dropped to 75 ranks. Just need to take the exam 2 more times to rank last in the school. When it was time to play, her classmate Lily ran out to ask about Zhang then, making Tu Hai feel embarrassed. With her poor grades and big face, how could she win Zhang then's affection? Tu Hai hesitantly stepped outside. At home, Tu Hai continued to look for ways to impress Zhang then. The next morning, Tu Hai held a bag of buns, waiting for her turn to be called. She quickly ran over to give the buns to Zhang then. As before, he rejected her again. On the first day of failure, Tu Hai brought fried dough sticks to wait for Zhang then the next day. She practiced her scripts alone, ready to recite them when she saw Zhang then. She kept speaking but didn't see him coming. She was about to be late for class, and she didn't wait for him anymore. But when she arrived school, it closed. This month, she was late for school only 5 times. The next morning she went to the bookstore to buy the Encyclopedia of Love. When eating a meal, she also read that book. Luke Duong, Tu Hai's best friend, came to boast. He even had more love letters than her. Tu Hai immediately told him to share that letter with her. Luke Duong taught her to write love letters afterwards. He brought many letters to Tu Hai, which turned out to be written by Lu Yang, but it didn't from other girls. But it's okay, at least Luke Duong was more experienced than Tu Hai. He started to read and she would write afterwards. Back in school, Tu Hai rode the bike with Zhang then. Tu Hai said that I made a poem today, do you want to hear it? Upon saying, Tu Hai started to read, but he had interrupted her after 2 verses, and said that if she had much time, she would take the exam. And finally, Tu Hai didn't succeed in confessing her love feelings. The next morning at school, she was practicing her lines alone. Her voice has attracted no Baktang, who was the new student. Bak Tu came to ask her what she was doing and she was startled. He said that the school was small, but her voice was loud. Baktang asked her if she had been the big gangster in this school or not. She also nodded and said. Then Tu Hai patted Baktang on the shoulder and told her not to fight with her. During the lesson when Tu Hai was writing the love letters, she was called to the board. She was being tested to write new English words when Baktang went to receive class just in time. He was late for school, so the teacher dragged him up. They stood but could not write any vocabulary, so the teacher let them back to the seat. Baktang was assigned to sit under Xiao Hui, so he was very happy. When it was time for free school, Tu Hai hid in class and took out a book to write to Zhang then. While he was walking in, she hurriedly stuffed a leaf into his briefcase. During the lesson Zhang then saw Tu Hai's love letter. He took it away and read, but he didn't understand what she had written. When it was time to play, Tu Hai went to grade 12 to give a letter to Luke Duong's flag. But it couldn't realize that the letter was caught by someone and then dragged out and read to someone else. She quarreled with someone they didn't come back to. Just when Bai Tung came, he wrote the other name so that she could come and retrieve the letter. They were arguing each other and Zhang then came to announce that the teacher had arrived. The crowd dispersed. Coming to class, the teacher asked someone who was involved in that incident. Before he knew who it was, the steward also came. He came closer and asked Tu Hai if she was an accomplice. The teacher said that Tu Hai brought it all out here, and she was startled and gave it to him. When he looked through the pile of love letters, he saw that there was a letter she wrote to Jiang then there. It turned out that Tu Hai had mistakenly given it to Zhang. Then he opened each letter and read it, which scared Tu Hai. When it came to Tu Hai's letter, Baktang stood up and asked the teacher not to read since it saw privacy. Zhang then also said doing that was not included in the school rule. Tu Hu also stood up and told him not to do that anymore. Then 5 of them were reminded to go to the principal room to drink tea and write a review. The next morning, all girlfriends had a fan meeting and Tu Hai also came. Tin Hyu accidentally ruined the banner. So Tu Hai showed off her drawing skills by recreating her idol's image, impressing everyone. Coming back, Tin Hyu thanked Tu Hai for helping her. The next morning when the alarm rang, Tu Hai opened the door and saw Jong then waiting for her. He turned his face like a fairy in the glittering morning on her heart. They went to school happily. At school, Tu Hai was studying literature in class. She just looked at him and tended to send him messages during the classroom. But when she was called to stand up for answering, her itchy answer made the whole class laugh. Tu Hai told Jong then that Jong then was very strange today. He didn't say anything all day. Tin Hyu said that Jong then had never said more than the first 3 sentences. Coming to the 5th meal sitting together, Luke Duong asked Baktang and Jong Tung to play games. But Jong then and Baktang refused. Luke Duong stubbornly invited Bai Tung and Jong then to go. Since that day he held the celebration, but how much time did it take to join the wedding? Upon saying they went together and Tu Hai also took Tin Hyu a company together. Coming to the internet cafe, it turned out that the person Luke Duong married was a virtual game. When Tin Hyu stopped to take a look, Luke Duong raised his eyes and saw her. Seeing her beauty, he was moved by it. They hadn't been playing for a long time but they were caught by the caretaker. Tu Hai and Luke Duong also threw away the car at the internet cafe to go home. Back at home, Tu Hai's mother was angry when her daughter lost her bicycle. She said she needed to buy it for the exam, but when she left the bookstore, her bicycle was gone. Tu Hai's mother said if it was lost, just buy another one. Tu Hai said that in 2 days it would be Jong Then's father's Memorial Day and asked if she needed to buy anything, since he was his crush, so she didn't know what to buy. Hearing this, her father agreed and handed her some money, telling Tu Hai to buy something. The next morning, Tu Hai happily thought that she would get to go with Jong Then today. But looking around, she didn't see his bike. After walking for a while, she met a man who rode his bicycle to take her to school. When arriving at school, Tin Hyu ran out to pick her up and asked her where the news had been. She went about her usual routine, erasing the old lesson and posting the new one. While talking, 2 girls approached Tu Hai and asked if she could post the new lesson for them. Tu Hai agreed and then they gave her presents. She felt happy when receiving gifts from them. In literature class, the teacher asked Jong Then to read his essay about his father, but he declined, and Tu Hai eagerly spoke up. She volunteered to read Jong Then's essay. Tu Hai started to read it, which contained vague his father's memories. The most profound memory was when Jong Then, at 7 years old, accidentally caused his younger brother to fall. He pushed him aside and comforted his younger brother. Jong then went to sit by the river, crying as he waited for his father to find him. After waiting a long time, his father finally appeared in the evening and took him out for a bowl of noodles. It was one of the few moments that Jong then recalled about his father. After reading his essay, Tu Hai and the whole class fell silent, moved by the touching story. After school, Tu Hai invited Jong then to her house for a meal. He refused and then gave her the bicycle key. Then he went alone to the noodle shop where he and his father used to eat years ago. Tu Hai and Tin Hai went into the supermarket to buy things. Tu Hai wanted to buy something small because she wanted to win over Jong Then's mother. Tin Hyu criticized her for thinking too far ahead, but in Tu Hai's mind, she was already considering marriage. She also thought about living together with his mother. She said when she liked someone, everything around her seemed blurred. Tin Hyu said it sounded just like the light of Buddha. She continued to daydream about her crush. As she reached the door, Tu Hai remembered it was time to send a message to her idol club. But she received some bad news about a change in the lineup of her club. While Tu Hai was standing, she saw the 2 girls who had come to ask her to put up a poster yesterday. She honestly said to them that she was dismissed. Her friends wanted to confront for her and Baktang also showed up. Baktang took Tu Hai to watch him compete. She gave him a beautiful banner but he came in second this time. While he was struggling to find words during the interview, Tu Hai's voice rang out. He regained the spirits and then invited her for a meal. Baktang invited her to eat, and Tu Hai's encouraging words made him feel much happier. He asked for the banner that Tu Hai had made for him, even though she had spelled something incorrectly. And he also gave her the award that he had already won. Tu Hai brought what she had bought for Jong Then. But Tu Hai didn't know that his mother had messaged saying she wouldn't come today. See the things that she bought for him, he immediately declined. She got angry immediately and wondered why he didn't use things she bought while he hadn't prepared. Did you feel annoyed about it? She didn't say anything more. Jong then folded the book and pushed Tu Hai out of the house. In the evening he just thought about his picture family. He was lonely in his own house, sick and went to buy medicine on his own and then recovered on his own. Tu Hai went to give Jong then the notice of the shipping company. Seeing him lying on the chair, she covered him with a blanket. She was also afraid that Jong then would take more clothes wrapped around him. He just sticked out his handsome face to see. When she gently left and Jong then also woke up. He also went to a familiar restaurant to order noodles just like in the old days. Jiang then sent a message to his mother telling her to take good care of Zhang Noyet, his younger brother. This morning was the same as every morning. But it was different when he waited for Tu Hai. She happily sat in the back of his car and felt this rare joy. In class, her former class leader transferred to Beijing to study. The monitor position was assigned to Zhang then, but he rejected afterwards. But it was true, since a quiet person like him was not suitable for its position. When he just rejected, many classmates raised hands for this position. Tu Hai wondered why all her classmates wanted to be a monitor like that. Tu Hai asked Zhang then why he didn't make the class leader just say troublesome. Luke Duong said that if now Zhang then was a monitor, Baktang would skip school and Tin Hu fought each other, he would be able to help them. The friend who liked Zhang then also came to call on him to support her. He lightly nodded his head and the teacher asked for who wanted to be elected. Tu Hai raised her hand, but by then she regretted it. She also wanted to be a monitor, but her academic performance was not good enough. Going home, Tu Hai wrote an essay that she thought was touching to read when she ran for election. When arriving school, she practiced a lot to run for the election. Baktang came to her and read what she wrote and found it impossible for her to run the election. But he still encouraged her, and then two of them ran and shouted together. The election time has come for Tu Hai to read her article. She knew that standing here would be everyone's laughing. She had never been an excellent student. If she had a chance to be a monitor, she would change herself and they would get over together through 3 years for studying. In 3 years there would be joys and sorrows, but everyone had to try for the class. She wanted everyone to think that she was not always a naughty student, but a girl named Tu Hai who liked to help people. After hearing that, the whole class started clapping and then wrote out their ballots. Afterwards she got 15 votes and Lai Vai got 14. She ensured that she would become a class monitor. She also wanted to wait for Zhang then, since he hadn't elected for this. Just then, Zhang then walked in and voted for Lai Vai, and they were equal at that time. This made Tu Hai feel so sad. In class, everyone said that if Zhang then became the class monitor and Lai Vai the vice monitor, it would be perfect. But Tu Hai was not aware of her own abilities and decided to run the election herself. Hearing that, Hu and Baktang also stood up for their little friend, Tu Hai. As Zhang then got up to leave, Baktang asked him why he didn't vote for Tu Hai. Zhang then said that she was not suitable and Tu Hai purchased him afterwards. If she wasn't suitable, then was Lai Vai more suitable? Zhang then said that she was not more suitable. Saying that, she kicked him in the leg and ran into the classroom. Seeing Tu Hai's unsuitable expression, Baktang thought she was bullied. He wanted to find Zhang then to deal with, but she stopped him. Sitting with Tin Hu, Tu Hai worried about whether she should go apologize to Zhang then. Did she do it deservingly? Since she was embarrassed, she didn't dare to collect the class fund. She was dragged to Zhang then by Tin Hu. She took the notebook and walked over. At the right time, Lai Vai came to praise Zhang then's words. She felt envious, then attacked violently on the excess money and went back to her seat. After collecting the class fund, her money that she held was lost. She asked her friend, Tin Hu, to accompany with her to solve with her. Tin Hu couldn't understand why the class fund could be lost like that. Tu Hai sat in the corridor just when Bai Tung came to bring her a package of candy. At the same time, Jiang then came over and asked if she had lost the class fund. She grabbed his leg and said that she had lost it. She didn't remember where she took it. After Zhang then's hints, she recalled that she had tucked money into the homework. She went to the teacher room, but she was scared to enter. She just came back the class and tried to find another way. The three of them, including Tin Hu, Luke Nwang and Tu Hai, strategized together. Tu Hai went to the teacher room to find her homework. At the same time, Zhang then also couldn't find the class fund and some teachers had entered. Tin Hu and Luke Duong went to the security room to look at the camera. They came back class safely, but they couldn't find the class fund afterwards. On this side, Bai Tung went to buy medicine for Tu Hai because he still thought she had a stomach ache. Tu Hai with Tin Hu stood in front of the corridor to discuss about the upcoming class meeting. Tu Hai would pretend to have a stomach ache and hide in the toilet, and Ni she would ask for money to compensate for the class fund. Zhang then overheard their conversation and congratulated her. Tu Hai felt sad in the classroom. When the teacher walked in, Lai Vai handed over the money and waited for Tu Hai. She stood up and then said that she had lost the class fund, which made the whole class angry. Zhang then went to get the class fund from the teacher and returned it to Tu Hai to return to her. She felt embarrassed and then asked to resign the position. The teacher encouraged her and said that it was just a small mistake, admitting mistake was more important, and hoped that the class would forgive her soon. But she still decided to give up the class monitor. Leaving Tu Hai to accompany Zhang, then she was right, she was not suitable to be the class president. But he said that she had been good at being a class monitor, and on the way, they felt very happy. It was perhaps that the way from Skolto home was the most relieved on in each person. Tu Hai informed Tin Hu of good and bad news. Good news was that it was about to Zhang then's birthday, but she didn't think of buying anything yet for him. She told to Tu Hai that when the day was near, he will naturally know what he had to buy. And then they came to classroom together. Lai Vai called on the whole class to participate in sports, but no one was excited. She asked Tin Hyu and Tu Hai if they wanted to participate, but they rejected together. Of course, Tu Hai only liked to play, but she didn't like to study physical education very much. In the shopping center they went to buy gifts to Jong then, but the price was so high for students to purchase for. Asking about everything is nearly 1,000 yuan, but Tu Hai only has 128 dong 3 trenches. After hearing the number, it was enough to feed Tin Hyu and drag Tu Hai away. The next morning when Tin Hyu came to school, a safeguard gave her a letter. That HR father had provided her with food money, and in the letter he wanted to see Tin Hyu this afternoon. She felt very excited after reading the letter. So Tu Hai could borrow her money to buy gifts for Jong then. Although everyone thought that sport events would be very tedious, the teacher announced the number of prizes. When a prize caught Tu Hai's eye, she and Tin Hyu decided to join the women's cross spear event. And Jong then was required to run 3,000 kilometers by live eye. Transitioning to the library, Tu Hai sat and read the picture very happily, when Jong then walked in. She chased after him to ask him which books he had borrowed, and he told that it was research references. She laughed happily, but when she opened the book covered she stopped smiling afterwards. Tu Hai and Tin Hyu practiced very hard. With her limited height, Tu Hai could only push the spear instead of clearing it. In class, Tu Hai approached Jong then and asked if he was working on his assignment. Jong then replied humorously that he was just coloring in the paper. In class, Tu Hai asked Jong then if he was working on the assignment. He joked that he was just coloring the questions. "Oh, you were saying that I was a bad student." When the bell rang, Tu Hai hesitated before heading back to her seat. In class, Luke Nwang wanted to give Tin Hyu a lollipop. He slipped the lollipop into her notebook but found a letter from Tin Hyu's dad. He ran to ask her, but she was too busy and ran off to practice. Tu Hai was eating ice cream while waiting for Jong then, who had left last time. Then Baktang arrived and offered to practice with her. He looked at his hands, reading the moves from the book. Tin Hyu ran over, making Tu Hai anxious. Was she planning to compete for the watch with her? She fell sleepy and asked Baktang for 30-minute break, but she had already sat for an hour. Tin Hyu was busy practicing. Just then, a guy suddenly grabbed her leg as she was about to run. From a distance, Luke Nwang saw Tu Hai fall and rushed over to be the hero, but he couldn't get Tin Hyu's attention. Tu Hai and Baktang ran over to help Luke Duong to lift Tin Hyu. Her leg was swollen and the doctor asked her not to join in sport events. Tu Hai decided to call Jong then to share that she hadn't been home with him in a while. Then she started talking away endlessly. Jong then turned on the speakerphone, squeezed the phone aside, and read intently, not caring about her anymore. The next morning, Tin Hyu went to the doctor for another exam, but he still said she couldn't participate in the match. It must be very important to Tin Hyu, as she was determined to compete and win a prize. While she sat sadly in the restroom, Tu Hai walked in. Tin Hyu told Tu Hai to try her best to win the prize and take the watch to give it to Jong then. When Luke Duong understood Tin Hyu's thoughts, he went to find the participants in the sports games, but everyone stepped aside for Jing Xiao. She wanted to win the prize and give the watch to her dad. Tu Hai, overhearing from the stairs, asked Jong then if she should let Tin Hyu have it. Jong then coldly told her not to overthink, as her mind couldn't handle it. After school, Tu Hai waited for him on her bicycle. He wanted him to practice for her, but as every other time, he refused and rode away on his bike. Tin Hyu chased after Jong then and told him that Tu Hai wanted to win the prize to give him the watch. He was also cold, but this time he had come back to the yard. He with Tu Hai ran around the schoolyard. Even with Jong then training with her, Tu Hai's performance didn't improve. Whenever she reached the hurdle, she still pushed it instead of jumping over. So would she achieve the aim of winning the watch for Jong then? The day of sport events had arrived. Jong then encouraged Tu Hai not to be nervous, making her smile. In the match, she pushed the hurdle but ran the fastest and crossed the finish line first. Tu Hai won the watch for Tin Hyu to give to her dad. The school had a celebration, so the gates were closed. She recalled the appointment with her dad and climbed over the gate. Just then she encountered Lion, who handed her a jacket to cover the torn pants. 5 students walked home hand in hand. As they parted ways, Luke Nwang texted Tin Hyu not to be sad. When he has enough money, he'll buy her a watch. Meanwhile, Tu Hai and Jong then got on the bus, talking happily just like our school days. The English class turned into music class. The teacher entered and announced that the school was holding a drama competition and asked the class to choose a play to perform. At the bookstore, Tu Hai envisioned her future. If she didn't get into college, she would open a bookstore like this. There is also a pairing program. Then every day Tu Hai will be able to watch the children in love dating. Tin Hyu said she should resolve things with Jong then first, while Jong then felt helpless about attracting the Jong then she liked. In the classroom, Luke Duong sat studying the script when Tu Hai said that he didn't have that ability. Tu Hai asked Luke Duong to join the group with her. Luke Duong agreed immediately because there was someone he liked among them. Seeing that there was still someone missing in the group, Luke Duong went to find Jong then. Before Tu Hai could say anything, Zhang then immediately refused. Luke Nwang, undeterred, continued to persuade him. Just now, there was Tu Hai and Tin Hu, and now there is no Zhang then to write the script. Still, seeing these untrustworthy people, Zhang then remained firm in his refusal. Luke Nwang then asked Tu Hai which role they should play. She boldly suggested the summer movie Hon Chow Catch Catch, and just hearing the title was enough to make everyone groan. Tu Hai claimed she would play the gentle and warm character Tu Vai, while Zhang then would take on the role of Ni Kang, a talented individual. Just now, Air Kang always had a movement and the phrase horoscope didn't go. She narrated that passage that made Luke Duong no longer want to act, let alone Zhang then. I went to Tu Hai to sit while watching movies and writing scripts. The next morning, Tu Hai brought the script to Zhang then. After finishing the letter, she tossed it over to his house. In class, Tu Hai slept soundly like a log while Zhang then returned the scripts she had written to her. He watched her sleep a bit longer. When Tu Hai opened her eyes, Zhang then told her not to give him the scripts anymore and sneaked back to his seat. Tu Hai turned to say that Luke Duong would play Ngu Aca and Tin Hu would be Tu Yen too. They would perform the scene on the grass, and Luke Duong criticized the script that it was too chessy. Tu Hai mentioned the kissing scene and he praised the script immediately. Luke Duong agreed, but the challenge was that Tin Hu didn't. Now, how could they convince her to accept the role of Tu Yen too? Tu Hai followed Tin Hu to the school infirmary. Tu Hai followed in and watched. He wanted to return the jacket to the doctor, and inside she found the book she had intentionally left behind. As they reached the door, Tu Hai realized she had shared everything with Tin Hu, but Tin Hu hadn't told her a thing. She immediately told the story to Tu Hai. Tu Hai also shared the experience of writing the script with Zhang then, but he refused to perform with her. In class, the teacher decided the main characters to perform, including Zhang then, Lai Vai, Tin Hu, and 2 other girls. Since they had good performance and they often practiced together, Tu Hai had lunch with Zhang then and regretted not performing with him. Lai Vai approached Zhang then to invite him to practice the play with her. Tin Hu joined in to support her best friend. Now, Luke Duong sat sadly after losing the role of Tu Yen too. He went to tell Tin Hu how deep his feelings for her were. Tin Hu would always be Luke Nwang's Tu Yen too. After hearing this, Tin Hu grabbed his shoulders and told him to stop dreaming. Tin Hu ran to Dr. Lai O ask for the book that her wife had forgotten. While they were happily talking, Luke Duong walked in and interrupted. He said I had a heart condition, which made Tin Hu furious. The 5 brightest students in the class were sitting together practicing for the play. Tu Yen walked in, and the other girl told her not to eavesdrop. Tu Yen replied that she wasn't interested in their play and returned to her seat. Tu Yen, Luke Nwang, and Baktang were enthusiastically rehearsing the play, but they were missing one person. Even before finishing, they faced many challenges. Luke Nwang's dad heard that his son was having a heart attack. He rushed to the school, but the guard wouldn't let him in. Just as Tin Hu arrived, he called her over and asked if she knew his son. Tin Hu said they were in the same class, so Luke Nwang's dad handed her the medicine. When Tin Hu saw the medicine from Luke Nwang's dad, she realized he really had a heart condition. Tu Hai walked in with the script, and Tin Hu wanted to check it out too. She read a few lines of the script and found it really cheesy, so it was a good thing she had declined from the start. In the afternoon after school, Baktang took Tu Hai to his house, where his grandmother was home. She warmly welcomed Tu Hai and invited her to play. She even went into the kitchen to cook for them. While Tu Hai and Baktang were sitting outside, they suddenly heard a plate shatter in the kitchen and ran in. Baktang's grandmother suffered from an elderly disease, so she mistook him as his son. Tu Hai next to her also said a few words to make her happy. This moment made him unable to tell anything. She encouraged him on the way back home. Back to home, she was Zhang then fixing the electricity, but it was not due to the power supply. He wondered why she had come home so late. Tu Hai told that Baktang had taken him. Upon that, he felt cold, but he seemed unhappy when hearing that. Arriving at school, she walked behind to meet Baktang. Seeing that, he didn't care anymore and kept going on. It was the time for Zhang Then's group. Lai Vai performed well and the teacher had praised them. In terms of Tu Hai, Luke Duong and Baktang's group, Tu Hai also took over as Vai Bak. Baktang acted as Ni Kang, and Luke Duong was the narrator. Although the scene was not dramatic enough, it made everyone laugh a lot. The teacher chose Zhang Then's group for the formal rehearsal, as Tu Hai's group wasn't suitable for the topic. Sitting in the corridor, she felt sad. Obviously, she took the play really seriously, but the teacher just didn't acknowledge it. When Baktang ran to buy laundry detergent, Zhang then came to him and sat next to Tu Hai gently. She had not yet said 5 sentences when he hurriedly left. Baktang brought Tu Hai a laundry detergent to do the washing for him. Since his grandmother was too old, going to classroom, the teacher assigned Tu Hai to support the audio team. It was the day for rehearsal and she came to the room. Changing clothes, she saw Zhang then wearing vintage costumes which attracted her a lot. When he left, she handed over to her friend the tape to record the sound. She asked her friend to upload the music part for her. She would go downstairs the stage to see his rehearsal performance. During the performance, Kyu Hai's friend pressed the button and caused the record between she and Tin Hyo be broadcast to the whole school. Kyu Hai rushed quickly to turn into another volume, but she fell down. When everyone came back, she was just cried lonely in the corner. When Jong then came to comfort her, but just then, Baktang walked in. Seeing their matching outfits, he couldn't help telling coldly. Kyu Hai felt embarrassed and cried all night without sleeping. She recalled what her crush said. When she walked down, she saw Jong then. Kyu Hai didn't want to go to school with him anymore, so she quickly hid behind the door. She only peeked out after he left. When coming to school, she was scolded when being asked to the office. She felt sad and turned to the school's corridor. Then she was caught and brought to her class. And then the head teacher emphasized the importance of studying seriously for the upcoming exam. Before he could finish, the teacher shoved Kyu Hai into the classroom. The homeroom teacher got mad and went outside. When going to school, Kyu Hai always felt sad. Then Luke Duong and Tin Hyo brought her 2 bottles of milk to comfort her. But she didn't have a mood for it. When she went to the head teacher's room, she was scolded. She didn't not only take the college entrance but also got the assignments wrong. The teacher would call for her parents if she had much time. Coming back to the class, she saw the meeting letter in the library. Upon arriving there, she just saw Jong then smiling with others. But Luke Duong had played a trick on her. The other guy offered his seat to Kyu Hai. But feeling down, she got up and went outside. Going out, Baktang and Kyu Hai took the bicycle. But finding the key for a long time, she couldn't find it. In terms of Kyu Hai's friend, she was bullied by a group of thugs. She stood up for her, but they didn't understand what she had said. Kyu Hai pretended to call her big brother, scaring the punks. When she got home, Jong then found her mom and little brother already there. His mother picked up food for him, but he wasn't happy enough. His mother poured milk for him, but then he left and went into the house. It turned out that he was allergic to cow's milk, but his mother didn't remember. Kyu Hai felt sad that her parents came to encourage her. He wanted her to change school since her academic performance was not good compared to others. But her mother wanted her to study at boarding school. Since she thought that it was good for her, she didn't say anything, just listened and followed. The next morning, Baktang came to pick her to school. She wondered that if she changed schools, did everyone miss her? Baktang said that if he changed schools, he would transfer with her. He was a real friend. In the classroom, she was asked to answer the questions by the teacher. She couldn't answer and she was afterwards scolded by the teacher. But her friend started to interrupt the teacher. Jong then came to the board and answered the answer. Today, Kyu Hai was studying with Jong then in the library. He offered to help her with the math homework, but she refused. He said he was worried she'd bring the class grade down, not out of concern for her. Kyu Hai packed up all things and said that she would never drag other grades down. While sitting alone, she came over to tease her. Baktang rode up on his bike to save her from the punks, while Jong then blocked them from chasing. Then, Baktang took Kyu Hai out for steak, but she still cried and did not have a mood for eating beef steak. After eating, Baktang took Kyu Hai to the pool, and he prepared her a float. Kyu Hai gently sat on the float, and Baktang took her to the middle of the pool. Thanks to him, her mood improved a lot. Kyu Hai played water with Baktang happily. Being happy, they saw the coach coming up. He scolded him for breaking the rules. Kyu Hai wanted to defend him, but the teacher didn't listen to her and kicked her out. At Jong Than's house, Kyu Hai's mom came to visit. When Jong Than got home, he heard her talking about transferring schools for her daughter. On the other side, he was scolded and the coach was his father. He strictly wanted him to win the championship, but he had never asked him if he wanted. Kyu Hai was his first friend. He was alone apart from others around him. Only Kyu Hai spent time talking with him. In terms of Jong Than, to prevent the thugs, he was injured afterwards. Her mother cared him, but he didn't say anything. Jong Than picked up his phone to send message to Kyu Hai, but he didn't do it and delete instead. The next morning, Baktang came to take Kyu Hai to school. They came to the class together, which made Jong Than unhappy. Before the class was over, Kyu Hai yawned, which caught the teacher's attention and led to her being sent to the principal's office. At the same time, her parents went, and her head teacher informed them of Kyu Hai's academic performance. The math teacher made the situation more serious. Kyu Hai's mom calmly said she would transfer Kyu Hai to another school. Perhaps she was not suitable for this environment. Hearing that her teachers felt unhappy, and the teacher turned to praise her for being obedient, the teacher advised Kyu Hai's parents to reconsider, as transferring schools would take time to adjust. But her parents were determined to transfer schools for their daughter. Her father had already completed all the procedures. Her friends knew that she was about to change school, so they went to find the teacher to save her. The teacher told the principal that Kyu Hai struggled academically but had a talent for drawing. He then asked her if she wanted to transfer schools. She came inside without saying anything, and Jong then promised to help her learn literature. Holding the stack of homework, she stood in front of her parents. and told that she didn't want to change school anymore. She promised to aim for the 15th student in the class, and said that she would transfer if she didn't, and after persuading them, her parents let her study her current high school. Tue-hai finally turned into the 13th of her class, which surprised everyone. Luke Duong teased that she was finally showing her smart side. This year, Tue-hai and her classmates moved up to 11th grade. The class president suggested everyone switch seats. Levi asked her if he wanted to sit with her, but he denied. But when someone wanted to sit with Tue-hai, Jong then made room for it. Levi asked him to bring books for her. Tue-hai offered to carry it, but Jong then wouldn't let her. He said he would help Levi during lunch instead. During the literature class, the teacher praised Luke Duong, said that although his writing wasn't great, it showed creativity. He even read Luke Duong's essay to everyone. At lunchtime, Levi called Jong then to the library, and Tue-hai, Tin-hyu, and Luke Nwang followed to hide behind the bookshelves and eavesdrop. Levi asked Jong then to choose the story books for her younger brother, but Jong then said that he didn't find out much about psychological books. She still shamelessly asked Jong then to choose for her. Levi gave a very pitiful reason that touched Jong then's heart. At school, Tue-hai was having lunch with Jong then and told that she was displeasing, and she talked about the pitiful character and said that she was similar to her. Jong then coldly remarked that the character didn't eat as much as Tue-hai. Baktang then served food into her bowl, but she handed it back to him. Luke Nwang handed a piece of paper and said that if they answered the last question correctly, they would win a trip to Nam-hai. Only Tue-hai cared, while the other three, including Jong then, showed little interest, and walked away from the boy serving food. Tue-hai followed that her parents were about to get divorced. But if that, who would she go with? To win Jong then's sympathy, she was willing to make up stories to appear pitiful. However, Jong then remained as unmoved as ever. She also said that her parents also threw many things, and he asked her which one. After thinking for a few seconds, she answered the refrigerator. In the next scene, she was in disbelief about going to Hainam, but all five answered the question with Luke Nwang. When the question was asked, only Jong then was able to answer correctly. Finally, Luke Nwang received the notification and the ticket to go for Hainam. When Tue-hai got home, she found her parents arguing. She then shared this with Jong then. Tue-hai also wrote down her parents' arguments on paper, and then recounted it to Jong then. Jong then angrily told her not to joke about her parents' divorce anymore. He walked away, leaving Tue-hai standing there, confused and alone. Baktang ran over, looking at Tue-hai with a short expression. He invited her to go buy snacks in preparation for their trip the next day. Baktang saw her buying a lot of goods and told that it was wasting a lot. At the convenience store, Tue-hai saw her dad with another woman. When she called him, she realized he was lying. She walked home in tears. When Jong then arrived, Tue-hai regretted her word. Her parents were really about to divorce. She wiped her tears with his shirt as she walked and cried. Coming back home, she saw her mother crying and couldn't hold back her tears. Her father returned in a drunk mood to remind her to study. She stubbornly refused to leave and asked her dad how many days he hadn't eaten at home. Frustrated by not knowing what he was doing outside, Tue-hai stormed into her room. The next morning when she woke up, she saw his father making a phone call. When he went outside, he had locked the door. She called her friends for help, and after a moment of panic, Jong then asked if there was no spare key at her house. She remembered and ran away, which three of them. They went to comfort her, but she wanted to go to Fu Hoa to meet her father. Jong then and his friends were finding Tue-hai's father. After working with an intelligent man, Jong then had found Tue-hai's father. His father only saw his friend to discuss about working. There was not affair or divorce here. Tue-hai misunderstood her father. On this side, Lun Wang was deceived. This was just an abandoned house. 5 of them wanted to go on a picnic, but the area was not safe enough. They decided to return to the abandoned house. That night, the 5 of them got together to play with a Ouija board. Jong then also came with Tue-hai, and then she confided what she thought. She knew that knowing someone that he didn't like her, but she still hoped for that. Upon hearing that, Jong then said that she was silly. The next morning, 5 of them went to the mountain to watch the sunrise. Each shouted out their wishes. However, no one wanted to do homework except for Jong then. At the pool, Tue-hai went to find Baktang to encourage him not to worry. She assured him that if he gave it his all, he would definitely win first place. During the competition, Tue-hai and her friends cheered for Baktang. Despite his cold demeanor, Jong then clenched his fist, hoping for his victory. Baktang won first place, causing them to joyfully run out to cheer. Reporters arrived to interview him. "What's the reason you won the championship?" Baktang pulled Tue-hai close and said it was because of her. Baktang won the championship, but his dad still deducted points from him. Truly, he was a tough dad. On the other side, Tue-hai was also ignored by her parents, who were busy preparing to open a restaurant. At school, Tin-hyu pretended to be a doctor examining Tue-hai. She played the role of a patient for real, even asking the doctor questions. "Can you and Jong then still keep the baby?" Tu Hai asked. The doctor sighed, saying she'd need a special medicine for 1,000 years to maintain the pregnancy. Tu Hai was pleased to hear that. Tin Hyo informed her to get ready to go to Hangzhou for a soccer match. But Jong then was still a bit distant. If she could get tickets and invite him, she would have to sell something afford it. Tu Hai asked Tin Hyo to help her get tickets. Tin Hyo gave money to Luke Nwang in class, assigning him the task. Baktang was down after his dad kicked him out. Luke Nwang offered him a place to stay, but Baktang said he was already with his grandma. At home, Tu Hai tried to flatter her mom to get money for tickets. Her mom was busy with preparations for the upcoming restaurant opening, but she stayed there while her mom firmly refused. Tu Hai decided to get a part-time job to earn money for the soccer tickets. Tu Hai went home and met Jongdan, apologizing to him for not being able to fulfill his dream of watching a football match. At school, Tu Hai wrote a note inviting Jongdan to hang out this Saturday. After reading it, he didn't respond. Tu Hai stubbornly wrote another for him, but to make her happy then he drew a hand with OK. The teacher praised Baktang for winning the national championship, and played his competition on the school TV. After watching, the whole class turned to look at Baktang and Tu Hai. Tu Hai felt anxious, fearing Jongdan would get jealous. During recess, she asked Jongdan if he had bought the bus tickets. He coldly replied that they were sold out. Tu Hai asked Jongdan who he liked in MU. He named someone and held up a newspaper showing he didn't want to chat anymore. At the bookstore, Tu Hai and Tin Hyo bought shirts as gifts for their fans. It was the alternative because Tu Hai didn't have enough money to buy a ticket for Jongdan. 3 of her friends, who were fans of Baktang, also came in to see Tu Hai. They criticized her poorly outfit and wasn't worthy of Baktang, adding that she was still in school. Tu Hai, angry, could only say worthy as Jongdan walked in. He turned and left immediately. Was this jealousy? At school, Tu Hai was decorating the class board when someone below mentioned someone's public relationship, startling her. She glanced at him and seeing him express seriously. Then he came into the classroom and grabbed his bags away. Tu Hai ran after him and told him not be mad. She gave him a shirt with their idol's signature. Jong then asked the price, and Tu Hai said 200. He paid her, making her angry. She threw the money back, declaring she would never like him again. Tu Hai was really angry with Jongdan, as she liked him more than anyone else. She wondered if she was being foolish. She gave him a shirt with their idol's signature. Tin Hyo asked Luke Nwang where the money she gave him was. He said he lost it, and she got really mad. Tin Hyo didn't know Luke Nwang was in trouble. She confronted him and took all his money. She felt angry and ran away. On the other side, Tu Hai didn't stop talking to Jongdan. He asked if there was an eraser pen and she said yes. But she realized that she was angry with him. A classmate said that someone wanted to meet her. Tin Hyo quickly asked him if he was upset about Baktang and Tu Hai. Jong then just said he didn't care. Tin Hyo added that if Tu Hai dated Baktang, at least they would have a couple. After hearing Tin Hyo, Jong then slammed the book shut, tearing it, showing he was angry and jealous. When talking about Baktang and Tu Hai's relationship, Jong then walked away. Baktang's father came to find Tu Hai and asked where Baktang was. Tu Hai revealed him where he liked and what he wanted to do. He had to bow his face because he was embarrassed. In the evening, Baktang's father went to the barbecue shop to look for him. When he returned, he met his father and took him to eat hot pot. But being treated like that, he felt strange. He confided that he wanted something better for him so that he would never be regretful. No parents hate their children, since they always wanted something good for their kids, but it was somewhat the wrong way. Tu Hai's parents found her sad and they bought her a Manchester ticket. He held it up in front of her, which made she excited. In class, Live I asked Jong then for help, and he explained it to her. Tu Hai, sitting next to them, didn't get anything. When Baktang came to school, she asked him if he had returned home the previous day. He said that he was back, and she boasted that she had talked to his father yesterday. He wanted to ask her out for thanks, but Jong then cut in and asked him to borrow correction pen. Baktang called Tu Hai, but she left to find an eraser for the game. While waiting for a call from Jong then, he invited her to go watch a football match, and before she could respond, she jumped up in excitement. On Saturday night, Tu Hai wore Manchester clothes and a green-red-yellow wig while waiting for Jong then. Her ticket was fake so that she couldn't join, so Jong then asked her to a corner to drink soda together. Baktang saw the two having fun together and, feeling heartbroken, threw his ticket in the trash. Tu Hai asked Jong then what he had written in the letter, but he just wrote that he didn't want to play this game. And it turned out that Baktang liked Tu Hai. Her friend told that she was strange today, unlike Tu Hai every day. Tu Hai told her friend that she could hold the Baktang's paper. That time, she was so confused, and saw him in the distance. She also hid away and didn't see him. Tin Hyo said that Baktang was quite good. He had a good-looking performance and always achieved awards to get money. So Tu Hai could eat snacks endlessly at school. But she had fell for Jong then for a long time. After class, Tu Hai invited Zhang then to go home with her, but he had already made plans with Lai Vi to discuss the debate competition. Then Tu Hai had to come back alone. In the hallway she saw her crush walking with other. She felt down in the dumps. Not only that, Tin Hyu also stated that they were such a couple. Lai Vi always made an excuse to meet Zhang then. Tu Hai asked to go see it because she had never been to see speech. And of course Tu Hai could join with Tran's secretary. During the debate, Tu Hai used Baktang as an example. Although he didn't study well, he was good at playing sports. Hearing that he would have a bright future, Zhang then stood and left away. Tu Hai chased after him and asked him whether it was Baktang, the reason why he was mad at her. When Zhang then and Tu Hai came to the car park and saw Baktang waiting here, seeing Baktang stand up and leave away, Zhang then also found out it. He took her bicycle and invited her to hang out with her. They passed each other on the bicycle happily. Tu Hai's hair flew in the wind brightly and Zhang then seemed to radiate extremely warm sunshine. Coming to the lake shore, I thought that Zhang then and Tu Hai would imagine talking affectionately, but it didn't happen. Not only she also mentioned the time when she wore piercing socks. It was embarrassing. In the evening, Tu Hai threw away the snacks Bai Tong had bought for her, and looked at the shirt Tom and Jerry for a long time. The next morning she decided to go to the swimming pool to meet him. When he appeared, she intended to run away, but unluckily Bak Tong had fallen down. Feeling worried, she took him to the infirmary. Mr. Lai said that he had no serious problems, since he was busy, so he left Tu Hai and Bak Tong in the room. Tu Hai boldly mentioned about what he had written in the upper. He sorried him for not falling for him. He felt quite sad, but he had regained the spirit afterwards. And he told that he just teased. She happily told that it was a misunderstanding. They would be friends forever. Upon saying, she left Bak Tong in the infirmary. Tu Hai set Bak Tong as the typical example in the speech contest. So her friends asked her to get more information about Bak Tong. She wanted the article to be more emotional. So she asked him if he had overcome difficulties and sufferings in this childhood or not. But he didn't suffer from anything. He was just lazy eating such a young age. After obtaining the information from him, she came back the class to participate in the debate tea. And there was a girl who drank soft drink and was stomachy afterwards. So Tu Hai would be the alternate member for the debate competition. On the way home from school, Luke Nwang was once again robbed of money by a group of girls. Tin Haiu walked by and saw this, then she smashed her water bottle to scare them. Seeing him strong, they felt quite frightened and scared. The oligarch ran away and did not forget to call his juniors to run with him. 5 of them sat in the music corner and asked for Luke Nwang. Since he was weak when he was young, so he was often bullied during the school time. The 4 of them comforted Luke Nwang and shared their own childhood stories. The stories were silly yet funny, making all 4 of them laugh joyfully. Just Bak Tong saw Zhang Tong and Tu Hai also felt sad. On the other side, Tin Hyu chased after Mr. Lai to the movie theater. She also deliberately bought him Voy tickets similar to Mr. Lai. She sat far away and keep an eye on him. The next day Tin Hyu came to the class and burst into laughter. He was always dreaming, and then put his hands on his cheeks and shook his head smilingly. The oratorical contest approached, and then Tu Hai and Zhang then also sat opposite the opponent. Tu Hai stood up to debate others, but she didn't say anything. Zhang then sitting next to Jer wrote a paper named No Bak Tung, which gave her more motivation. After finishing speaking, the whole hall clapped and clapped. The winter weather approached and Tu Hai wore a yellow jacket and cycled to bring breakfast to Zhang then. Seeing them cycling together, Bak Tung then put the milk packet away. In class he wanted to give Tu Hai the milk packet, but he didn't dare to do. He just held it in hands and didn't say anything. At recess, Bak Tung ran over, pressed something into Tu Hai's hand, told her to keep it, and then dashed away. Tu Kyo had a cold and might spread the flu. The teacher reminded all students in the classroom not to yell or they would be infected with the flu. In class, the boys boycotted Li Wei, sitting next to Xiao Qi, fearing she would spread the disease. However, Tin Hyu and Tu Hai invited Lai Vi to come sit with them. This made Li Vi feel very grateful. Seeing Mr. Lai coming in waiting to check everyone's temperature, Tu Hai sneezed a few times and Mr. Li asked her to go to the infirmary. Seeing her shades, both Bak Tung and Zhang then saw her bewilderedly. Tu Hai went to the medical room and lay down happily for a nap. She dreamed of being poisoned, and Zhang then had held her hands tightly as some characters in a film. She was awakened by the doctor. The doctor woke her up and locked her in the private room. In the classroom, Bak Tung and Zhang then were still worried about her. Tin Hyu wondered why she had already returned to the classroom. 4 of them decided to go to the infirmary to visit her. 4 of them standing outside looked the person inside like a criminal. Since Bak Tung slapped the door loudly and then the bodyguard chased after them. Before Zhang then told anything, he had go away. Tu Hai phoned her mother and hoped that she would help her. She recalled everything to her mother. Upon hearing that, she angrily hung up. Bak Tung visited Tu Hai again, and talked to her so that she would not be afraid anymore. He had made her feel less afraid and alone. While they were talking happily, the overseer went and rushed him away. Lai Vi was also fever and then she was taken to Tu Hai's room. Zhang then took Tu Hai megapixel 3 and the teacher had misunderstood that he brought to Lai Vi. But when she heard it, she saw that the name in it was Tu Hai. She sadly took off her hand and listened. Baktang took Tu Hai's heating bag and clamped it on his body to measure the temperature. The doctor saw his temperature and took him to the infirmary. So Tu Hai had Omion to make friends with her. Then they received the hospital results and then they could come back the class. As soon as he went out, Tu Hai rang to Zhang then and said with a smile. So Tu Hai had overcome it and could return to his classroom. Nearly approaching the Christmas, Tu Hai didn't know which presents she would give to Zhang Than. Seeing that her friend was embarrassed, Tin Hu suggested some items to her. Perhaps she could give him a woolen scarf knits by herself. On the way to school, Tu Hai borrowed Luke Duong's gloves. Seeing that Bok Tung then bought her a pair of gloves as a present at Christmas. Feeling embarrassed, Tu Hai denied receiving. Seeing that he gave each of them a pair of gloves not to make her embarrassed, Tin Hu went to Tu Hai's house to knit a scarf. Tu Hai's mother showed her a few techniques, and Tin Hu learned them quickly, but she found it difficult to teach to knit scarves. At the break time, she saw Lai Vi also knitting scarves like that, so she didn't want to do any more. It turned out that knitting and embroidery were not suitable for her. Her mother found the letter that her daughter wanted to write to Zhang Then. She was worried that her son would fall in love and didn't focus on studying. She asked Zhang Then if he knew that she had a crush or not. She asked if Tu Hai hung out with anyone or liked a boy, and Zhang Then replied that there was no one. But she didn't know that the person that her daughter fell for was himself. In class, Lai Vi called Zhang Then over to give him a scarf she had knitted herself. Tu Hai and Bok Tung, on the other side, overheard it. She sadly overheard their talk. But Luke Nuong talked loudly and then she had to pull them away. Later, Tu Hai saw a gift from Lai Vi in Zhang Then's desk. When coming back home, she recalled it, which made her feel angry, seeing that her mother asked her if she liked someone or had a crush on them. But she didn't say anything to her mom. The next morning, Tu Hai waited for Zhang Then. Seeing Zhang Then with the scarf from Lai Vi made her angry, and she turned to walk away. Tin Hu also knitted the scarf for Mr. Lai. She went to the infirmary and saw the gift box with a scarf on it. Feeling heartbroken, she took the scarf and went home. She held the scarf sadly and Tu Hai comforted her, which made her better. After all, that scarf might not even belong to Mr. Lai, but Zhang Then would receive Lai Vi's scarf for sure. Tu Hai would be more heartbroken than Tin Hu. In the classroom, Tu Hai turned to see his face captivatedly, but she glanced at his desk and saw Lai Vi's scarf, which made her sad. The homeroom teacher announced that the class had to stay after school to clean up for a television crew coming tomorrow. The class stayed late to clean up when it started snowing outside. All students gathered by the window to watch and Tu Hai joined them. Zhang Then stood behind her, watching her delight in the snow, which made him happy as well. But only Bok Tung on the balcony held 2 bottles of artificial snow to spray. A while later, the snow falled and Tin Hu wrapped the scarf that she knitted for Luke Nuong. Zhang Then and Tu Hai were also romantic in the summer like that. He wrapped the scarf for her in order not to be cold. Just Bok Tung was unlucky when being caught in red-handed. Tu Hai returned home and gave her father the Christmas card she wrote, which made her parents relieved since she didn't fall in love anymore. Everyone turned to the 12th grade and the important entrance exam was approaching nearly, but the trio was constantly scolded by the teacher. But Zhang Then always stood up to help Tu Hai, so that she would not have to be punished. In the canteen, 5 of them ate together. Zhang Then picked up the food for Tu Hai and she felt happy. And Bok Tung gave her the whole plate, but she refused then. Luke Nuong informed that after the health check, the school would let all students to go to the suburbs for playing. Tu Hai borrowed his money to buy some snacks for the upcoming fire-burning run. Bok Tung generously handed her his wallet. It proved that he would give her all. Tin Hu followed Mr. Lee to the movie theater and she had bought a ticket to sit next to Mr. Lee. But Luke Nuong chased after her. He had interrupted them, so she couldn't confess her feelings. Tu Hai and Bai Tung on this side went to buy fireworks to light the fire. He reminded the owner to sell it to her with cheap price and he would compensate then. After buying fireworks, Bok Tung drove his car to pick him up to meet the national coach. Then Bok Tung said goodbye to Tu Hai and got on his father's car. The picnic was approaching and everyone got on the car. Levi sat with Zhang Then in front of Tu Hai. Tu Hai was sitting next to Tin Hu, but she was pulled away by Luke Nuong. Bok Tung was also chosen by the national coach to join in the national competition. Hearing that news, he was very happy, since it moved up his career ladder. Saying goodbye to his father and the coach, he rushed to Tu Hai immediately. All students have finished going to the lawn to participate in extracurricular activities. The whole class divided and each person went to pick up a brand to light the fire. Lai Vi found every way to talk with Zhang Then, which made Tu Hai displeasing. She was afraid that her crush would fall for Lai Vi. Not to worry since Zhang Then also fell for just Tu Hai. After lighting up the fire, everyone started dancing and singing together. Tu Hai asked Tin Hyo to call Jong then to come out when she lighted the fireworks. He felt malicious and then Tue Hai asked Jong then out. Jong then went out with Lai Vi and chased after her and confided with Jong then. Lai Vi also hugged Jong then. Misunderstanding that she was Tu Hai, she set off fireworks. Seeing that scenery, Tu Hai felt heartbroken. Levi took that chance to kiss Jong then but luckily, he refused. Baktang hided Tu Hai's eyes and led her away from the dark place. On the way she cried a lot, which made Jong then and Baktang heartbroken. When Baktang took her back home, Jong then followed after. She said goodbye to Baktang and went upstairs. Baktang met Jong then and said he liked Tu Hai, but she only liked him. And from that he would like her anymore. Jong then went upstairs and didn't care Baktang. Tu Hai pulled out the drawing of the two hugging under fireworks and she felt heartbroken. She was just sincere. On the way to classroom, Tu Hai didn't see and talk with Jong then. Seeing him go one way she would go another way. Tin Hyo asked her if what had happened to her. She said that maybe Jong then had fallen for another. Jing Xiao pulled Tu Hai to a place where Tu Hai cried incessantly. She had tried a lot but he didn't fall for her. Jong then also felt displeasing about what had happened previous day. He had bought snacks for her but she dismissed it. Baktang took it back to Jong then. When Tu Hai left the class, Baktang followed her and gave her a bottle of water. Lai Vi was distracted and unfortunately make Tu Hai spill water on her. She shouted loudly at Tu Hai and Jong then asked Lai Vi to go to class. And let Tu Hai feel sorrowful and she was about to cry. Jong then knew clearly that she was mad at him. He asked Luke Duong to help him regain Tu Hai's affection. In the music room, Jong then had played the music song and let Tu Hai enjoy that. She stood outside looking at his face. And his gentle gaze made her a little moved. But life was not easier. Lai Vi always found ways to approach Jong then. But more angrily, he didn't refuse it. He always let Li Virgin Islands close to him which made her feel unhappy. Baktang rode his bicycle to drive Tu Hai to the swimming pool. And he performed a few tricks for her. But after falling off the bicycle, Baktang's arm constantly hurted. Tu Hai took him to the hospital. And after the examination, Baktang went out and said he wanted Tu Hai to go home peacefully. Baktang ran to give the umbrella to Tu Hai, and told her to come home and text her. The doctor said that due to his overexertion, his body was damaged. If it continued, he was afraid something bad would happen. Jong then stood under the umbrella, waiting for her to return, and saw her calling Baktang. He gripped the umbrella tightly. The next morning, during the test, Lai Vi, feeling pressure from school and the team, decided to cheat by using hidden notes. Lai Vi was forced to hand her over to the head teacher by Mr. Kwong. This caused the stir in the whole class. And when she entered the class, she heard bad words about her, since she suffered from mild depression, and her family was not complete enough, so it affected her spirit at all. When Tu Hai was walking on this side she met Jong then, she hurried away and fell down. Jong then approached and picked her up gently, and then washed her hands with hot water. His actions made her obey and sit quietly. Seeing her lightly injured, he carried her on his back, and explained to her everything about him and Lai Vi. When Tu Hai hid behind the door and looked out, she saw Levi handing the paper to him. At the same time, Baktang called Tu Hai. She startledly came inside but he still stood there to tease Jong then. Baktang appraised them as a beautiful couple. On the other side, Luke Nwang took Tu Hai to the library to Stewie. At that time, Jong then also approached, seeing that she wanted to rush but he prevented her. Two of them sat next to each other studying, sitting next to Jong then. Her heat was beating wildly and every lesson was difficult. Jong then taught the lesson to the teacher, but she didn't understand and sat there biting her pen. Jong then casually picked up a pen to tuck Tu Hai's hair behind her ear, surprising her and making her turn to look at him. Tu Hai said that if Jong then didn't want to talk about Lai Vi, she wouldn't ask about it anymore. She hoped that he would never play with Lai Vi. Tin Hyo took the water bottle to give Mr. Lai. She sneaked into the teacher and left a can of water on the table. Luke Nwang passed by and saw Tin Hyo walking from the infirmary. He secretly saw. Seeing the Tin Hyo's water canister, he went back to the class sadly. He took out the vitamin C packet, and dropped it into the water bottle to give her. When Tin Hyo came back and saw that, she pushed Luke Nwang and shouted him that was he crazy. Luke Duong replied her that he was crazy, turned back and left away. Jong then followed Luke Nwang up to the balcony. Nwang considered him as a silly man since he always chased after Tin Hyo. On Saturday night he was still in great pain. He went to the football ground and recalled the unforgettable memories between him and Tin Hyo. The next morning, Tu Hai and Tin Hyo were talking when they heard a scream. It turned out that Lai Vi went to the balcony and fortunately, Jong then and Mr. Lee saved her. Her mother went to the office and shouted out loudly. The normally aggressive overseer has now also turned into a kitten. The mother was angry because the school prescribed sedatives for Lai Vi to take. She wanted to report to the police. Levi revealed that Mr. Lee prescribed her Tin Hyo looked for Lai Vi, and said it was the medicine she stole and drank, but teacher Lai told her otherwise. Poor Mr. Lee was fired, and Tin Hyo didn't have the heart to stop him from talking. Hearing Mr. Lee's words, he also saw that there was Tin Hyo, so he immediately followed and went to class. While studying, Tin Hyo ran to the office and confessed that she had stolen the medicine and gave to Lai Vi. The teacher brought Tin Hyo to class to announce it, making Luke Hong have the wrong view of Tin Hyo. He angrily kicked the table and then ran away. Just she knew that Lai Vi had stolen the medicine and blamed for Mr. Lai. Tin Hyo just wanted to stand up for the teacher. At night, Tu Hai and Jong then got on the bus together, and he secretly poured a can of water to meet her. At school, everyone talked about Tin Hyo, making Luke Nwang unbearable to go out. When she ran away, 4 people chased after her. When she ran to the middle of schoolyard, Luke Nwang was dizzy and fainted. Mr. Lai gave him a brief first aid during the urgent situation. He had decided to inject Luke Nwang with drugs on his own. Luckily, Mr. Lee could help him overcome the urgent situation, which made everyone pleasing afterwards. Tin Hyo went to Mr. Lee's office to say goodbye to him, and Jong then Baktang also came. He felt happy and pleasing since he was responsible for saving people. He left away without regrets. The next day Tin Hyo was forced to stand up in front of the whole school due to what she had done before. He asked her to read the review in front of the whole school. Luke Nwang appeared with the blue hair, and stood up to read for her. She had confessed his feelings. During 3 years of high school, he liked her. He liked Tin Hyo very much. After saying, Luke Nwang turned back and smiled at Tin Hyo. During the physical period, Tu Hai said that Luke Nwang was very cool that day. She also missed him and didn't know if he had regained his hair. Coming to class, Tin Hyo also missed Luke Nwang. Seeing his seat, she felt quite down in the dumps. Luke Nwang also missed his friends a lot when he was in the hospital. Tu Hai asked her friends to visit. Tin Hyo said no, but finally she brought foods to visit him. She also carefully copied the exercise for him, since she was afraid that he could not understand the lesson. Luke Nwang refused, which made the environment awkward. When coming back, Tin Hyo quietly walked forward. Jong then, Baktang, and Tu Hai went to the Bia store. They decided to have a match against each other. After Jong then showed off, Baktang had expressed his talent before Tu Hai, and of course Baktang had won this game. When Jong then took Tu Hai back with him, which made him feel angry. Coming back, Jong then's mother saw them, and asked him if he wanted to get into Tan Hoa University or not. Hearing that, she felt quite sad since her poor academic achievements. How could she get into Beijing University? In the swimming pool, Baktang's hands turned heavier, and perhaps couldn't he swim anymore. He went to school to meet Tu Hai and they were talking happily. Suddenly Jong then asked Tu Hai to go to the office to meet the head teacher. When she came, she had admitted all her mistakes before her teacher made a complaint. But in fact the teacher didn't call her, since he didn't want her to be next to Kwang Tung. When Tin Hyo visited Luke Nwang, she saw him studying with a tutor, and she waited for him outside. The nurse told Luke Nwang to have his friend come in. He asked her to let his friend know he was discharged. On the other side, Bak Tong's father found Tu Hai and invited her for a meal. He wanted to ask her to comfort him. He was worried about his son, and then Tu Hai agreed that she would be by his side. She agreed to help Bak Tong. In the afternoon, Tu Hai and Bak Tong went to his grandmother. Seeing him wearing yellow pajamas, he looked cute. He changed his clothes embarrassingly. His grandmother thought that she was his girlfriend since they were similar. Xiao Shi asked Bai Tong if he was seriously injured, right? You can't even compete nationally, right? Seeing that, Bak Tong took her to school. From that he had to become an obedient student. Tu Hai thought that he could do whatever he liked. She was happily optimistic and liked what she had done. Seeing them arriving in class together, which made Zhang then angry. He stood in the corridor for a moment before going to the classroom. As soon as he entered, someone announced that the superintendent wanted to see him. Walking a few steps, he didn't pay attention to her. He slammed the water bottle and left. He announced the enrollment notice. Tu Hai told him that he would get into Beijing University anymore. Zhang then coldly answered that it was a golden chance instead of giving up. Tu Hai felt sad and hoped that he would be successful. On the day he went to Beijing, Tu Hai was waiting for him downstairs to see him off. Today Zhang then wore beautiful new clothes. Tu Hai hoped he'd get into Tan Hoa University. He playfully pinched her cheeks and said he might fail. The beautiful morning, Tu Hai got 4 marks in math and Bak Tong got 2 marks. When it came to the difficult problem, Tu Hai could find the way for it and decided to do it tomorrow. During this time, every 12th students purchased time. There was just 100 days until the most important exams. All teachers stood by the students to practice for the university. Zhang then came back home after the examination in Beijing. Zhang then received congratulations from the teacher and applause from his classmates. The teacher asked everyone to write down their desired university. Tu Hai didn't know what she should write in. She glanced at Zhang then and saw him writing his dreams and then looked at Bak Tong. She felt happier when Baktang also didn't know which school. Tu Hai and Baktang sat in the library for studying. Baktang asked Tu Hai if she would be sad if he gave up. Tu Hai felt sorry for him but wasn't actually sad. But the saddest ones were probably Baktang and his family. He told her not worry about him. He asked what she wanted to do in the future. Her dreams included a lot such as police, jobs related to scientific research or the teacher. Since it was valueless but she liked drawing the most. Luke Nwang in the hospital covered the blanket to hide Tin Hyo Luke. Tin Hyo knew he was there and wanted to bring him something to help him study. But Luke Nwang refused, making her angry and causing her to leave. As Jong got close to the door, Luke Nwang told Tin Hyo not to come anymore. She turned back and said if he didn't want her to care, she'd just stop. When Tin Hyo left, Luke Nwang bent down to pick at IP and thought that it was him who could bear it. Jong then visited Luke Nwang and told him that he wanted to study health science to be with her. Luke Nwang believed in him. Jong then also told that to her mother. She didn't agree with him, told him to wait until the time when he received the final results. Tu Hai called Jong then to teach her, but he was dozing off. As time went by, she stood up and wanted to kiss his cheek. Just then, Jong then opened his eyes, making Tu Hai sit back down shyly. Baktang happened to walk by and saw the scene. Baktang sadly walked to the gym, but accidentally got hit in the face with a ball, causing his nose to bleed. When he came to the medical room, he didn't know if his pain was in his nose and his heart. While studying, he was informed that his grandmother was lost. Then he rushed and Tu Hai, Jong then chased after. On the way Jong then saw his grandma. When Baktang approached suddenly, which caused her panic and bite his hands. She had mistaken Jong then for Baktang, which made him nearly cry. The person that his grandma loved no longer recognized him. Coming back to school, 3 of students were punished outside the class. His father came to school to make procedures for his leaving from school. Tu Hai told that Baktang would choose swimming. Tin Hyo comforted everyone that they would not always meet each other anymore. And Jong then looked at Baktang implicitly understood and nodded. It's true that men talk less and understand much. In the evening, Tu Hai went to the practicing room to meet him. Standing from the stage he said that Tu Hai was very cute. She saw the first who supported him. And what he had written in the paper that he liked her was also real. He ran downstairs to wipe her tears. And Baktang came to say goodbye to Tu Hai because he no longer liked her. It was his time to pursue his dream. Then he ran into the stage. Everyone has beautiful moments in their school days. The feelings of youth are innocent, pure, and carefree. But it also passed so quickly and the final entrance exam had come to an end. The teacher came to class for the last lesson, standing at the podium and expressed her thoughts, feelings. She hoped that all her teachers would be successful. Everything happened smoothly but everyone felt down in the dumps. On the day of the results, Tu Hai was too nervous. Her parents told her she got 549 points, which was good enough. Tu Hai came to inform it to Jong then. They asked to drink juice together. Tu Hai believed Jong then would get into university. On registration day, his mother came to class to change his application choices. He said to her mother that if she changed his final decisions, he would drop off. Knowing that, she didn't change anymore. Jong then stepped outside to call Tu Hai. On the way back, she noticed he was also stubborn. She also felt sorry for him since Tan Hoa University was very really potential. On recruitment announcement day, everyone was happy to have gotten into their dream universities. But just Tu Hai failed to get into university. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Jong then called her but she didn't reply. Jong then came inside her house and seeing her crying, he asked her out for a walk. Meanwhile, Baktang was worried because his injured elbow didn't let him swim as fast as before. Hearing the 3 megapixels, he seemed to regain his spirits and this time he was finally the fastest one. Baktang phoned Tu Hai but she didn't reply. She cried out loud, she was scared and didn't know what to do. Jong then advised her to retake the exam. Choosing such a painting aptitude contest will help her get good points. Hearing that, she felt more motivated. She came back home and informed to her parents that she would retake the exam. Just when the TV showed the image of Baktang winning the championship, he said on TV that it wasn't scary to start again. Baktang told her that retaking the exam was not scary. Jong then said he'd wait for Tu Hai to join him until graduation. Tu Hai nodded in agreement. At home, she started taking drawing lessons to prepare for university entrance exams next year. While studying and drawing, Tu Hai was visited by 3 friends. Soon after, Baktang arrived, and the 5 of them laughed and chatted happily as always. One day, Tu Hai passed the entrance exam for her dream university. The whole class gathered for a reunion. Tu Hai was asked to drink so much and not knowing anything. Tin Hyo was also drunk and was taken home by Luke Nwang. Tu Hai, Baktang, and Jong then stayed behind. Jong then took Tu Hai home and gently kissed her. Jong then and Tu Hai's first kiss was warm and sweet. Tu Hai began her journey to university. Fortunately, Tu Hai and Jong then attended the same university. That evening, he sat beside her as the group began playing games. Jong then wanted to leave, so she asked Tu Hai to help him. Tu Hai pretended to have a stomachache and he said he needed to take his girlfriend home. They left the party. Tu Hai, not believing her ears, asked Jong then if she was really his girlfriend. Jong then confirmed it, making her overjoyed. From then on, Tu Hai was officially Jong then's girlfriend. The next morning Tu Hai went for a walk with Jong then. She asked if he had heard a certain song and sang it for him. Jong then got Tu Hai's hint and took her hand. While they were having dinner, he asked her to study with him later. Tu Hai heard a noodle fall into her glass of water. Embarrassed, she saw Jong then come over, sit next to her, and say he didn't see anything. Tu Hai happily told Tin Hyu about Jong then hugging her. She stated that just a hug made Tu Hai so joyful. Tin Hyu hoped the two would move faster. That evening, Tu Hai wore a beautiful dress and sat next to Jong then in the lovely garden. Tu Hai expressed her wish to kiss Jong then. He told her to close her eyes and gently kissed her. Although her kiss was brief, she was stunned, and she felt that she looked attractive in her dress. Maybe it was the scent of her essential oils that excited him. Jong then honestly replied as their lips brushed against each other. It was just like any other skin touching, nothing special. It was clear how silly Jong then could be. Jong then approached Tu Hai to inform that Luke Nwang needed heart surgery, but he didn't want Tin Hyu to know. The surgery was very dangerous, so it was better for Tin Hyu not to know. However, in the end, she found out anyway. Jong then told her that Luke Nwang was in the hospital for surgery. Tu Hai ended up trusting him more than Jong then. Tin Hyu held Luke Nwang's hand while they watched TV, where they saw Baktang, their valued friend. When he got into the operating room, she cried uncontrollably. A month later, she went to visit him. She demanded he give her his phone, gaming console, and snacks, all of which weren't good for him. Tu Hai was working part-time at a bubble tea shop, dressed in a pink bear costume to hand out promotional flyers. Noticing Tu Hai's struggle, Jong then offered to help. His handsome looks made it easy to distribute the flyers quickly. It made Tu Hai jealous. That evening, Jong then asked to meet her and surprised her with a drawing tablet, which made her happy. As she ran up the stairs, he held her back. Tu Hai shyly kissed Jong then on the lips and then rushed upstairs. After his surgery, Jong then received high praise from his homeroom teacher. While in the changing room, he got a call from Tu Hai. Before she could say how much she missed him, Jong then hung up. Now, all the students from those days had grown up. Tu Hai also applied for a job at the publishing company. She wore high heels and formal office dress. After applying for a job, she went to the hospital to meet him. She asked him to eat for a meal, but he had another surgery. She had to say goodbye to him. As a medical intern, he was being considered for a 4-year internship at a major hospital. The minister told Jong then to reconsider. Upon leaving the hospital, Jong then went to meet Tu Hai immediately. He missed her a lot. Jong then could see her in a short time. Seeing how she missed him, he wouldn't want to leave. He came to meet the dean and refused for the upcoming training. He felt sorry for him and advised him with a lot of benefits. Tu Hai, on this side, had to rent a house alone. She phoned him to go with her, but he had 2 surgeries, so she had to go alone. She encountered a real estate agent who almost harmed her. Tu Hai was in tears of fear. At that time, Jong then was already in the operating room. Tu Hai heard from the nurse that he was going to practice in Beijing. She felt even sadder waiting for Jong then in the hospital chair. Jong then comforted her, but she denied. Just then, seeing her shade, he felt heartbroken. Tu Hai met Tin Hyu to confide with her. Her friend advised her to complete the graduation project. She felt alone in her loving relationship. He was always busy with the surgery. In the operating room, the surgery was not successful. Jong then took off the mask and left sadly. Jong then apologized for them. Until night, he appeared in front of Tu Hai's dormitory. Jong then wanted to hug her to regain the spirit. Tu Hai was still angry with him since he had agreed to Beijing without telling her. She went back to the dormitory and let him alone. After the surgery and Tu Hai's criticism, he decided to go to Beijing for training. Tu Hai also practiced in the dormitory. She was helped by Luke Nwang's friends. At that time Jong then came and called her to see her, but she had lied him. The day Jong then left, he called her to see her again, but she didn't arrive in time. Just like that, they missed each other. Tu Hai cried and watched the plan taking him away from her. 4 years later, No Baktang had become a celebrity. Many women flirted him. He had waited for Tu Hai with his own car. Tu Hai's father was seriously ill and was in the hospital where he worked. At the hospital, the couple met again. Tu Hai called for Jong then while Baktang asked about his father's condition. His father had a severe fracture, so they had to wait for the hospital schedule. Jong then would help her father operate the surgery soon. That night Jong then took her back. She invited him to cook noodles for him. After finishing cooking, he had fallen asleep. It was perhaps that he was exhausted. When he woke up, it got cold. They looked at each other in confusion. Before heading home, he criticized Tu Hai for cooking too salty. Jong then had successfully operated on her father. She thanked him and then he coldly left. The next morning, she brought Jong then a packet of apples. He thanked her and told that he would visit her father. Tu Hai saw him busy and asked to leave. Seeing this, he asked her if she had ever regretted. She said no to him. Jong then went to Beijing for 4-year training, but he had completed in 3 years to meet her soon. His affection had never changed. Lu Kenwang invited 5 old friends to join in the bachelorette party. Jong then also took her girlfriend to tease Tu Hai. But it was surprised when Baktang and Tu Hai flirted each. Ending the party, Baktang and Tu Hai got on Jong then's car. He took him back home and then his fake girlfriend. In the car there were only Jong then and Tu Hai. He asked her to sit in the front one. She thanked him for taking her home. He got off the car and asked her to apologize to him. She also listened to him even though she didn't know what had happened. He took her closer to him and kissed her. She couldn't fall asleep due to the kiss that night. The next morning, Tu Hai phoned Jong then and told him not to kiss her since he had a girlfriend yet. If that, she would become the third person. But the person who hung up was Dr. Tu, which made she embarrassed. When she went to the hospital, she knew that it was not his real girlfriend. Lu Kenwang and Tin Hue tried on wedding dresses. Tin Hue was beautiful with all dresses and they were gazing. Tin Hue told Tu Hai to try on a new one. Seeing Tu Hai and Baktang try on wedding clothes, no Baktang hurried angrily. Tu Hai brought rice to her parents. Bu Zhang then had bought for 2 of them. Tu Hai brought that meal to meet Zhang then. Zhang then asked her whether she wanted to break up due to his 3-year training or not. But she said it was not important anymore. Zhang then mentioned that he had boarded the plane, but upon seeing Tu Hai and Baktang hugging, he misunderstood. Due to the emergency call, he had to leave urgently. Meanwhile, Tu Hai spun in his chair and bumped her head on it, making her dizzy. He found Zhang then and became fainted outside. Just a reason like that, it easily made Zhang then hear broken. Zhang then gently used medicine to Tu Hai and suggested making up. He told her to lie down and then kissed her. Tu Hai's father could discharge from the hospital and Zhang then advised him to drink medicine. At the same time, Tu Hai and Baktang also took her father back. Zhang then looked at Tu Hai affectionately. It was a time for the wedding day of Lu Kenwang and Tin Hue. Baktang took her with a beautiful bouquet of flowers to the wedding. Lai Vi also met Tu Hai and recalled what happened in Cam Tray River. She wanted to make it clear to Tu Hai. Tu Hai invited her to the wedding. The bride and groom were very beautiful and happy. Lu Kenwang was happy being with Tin Hue. After difficult times, he managed to win her heart and take her back his home. 13 years of proving their love, Lu Kenwang kissed Tin Hue happily. Zhang then went to pick up Tu Hai and met her colleagues. Then they ate together. Tu Hai received a phone call from Baktang that he had waited for her. Zhang then also followed. Baktang took her away in front of Zhang then. The next morning, Zhang then asked the manufacturer to publish all Tu Hai's drawings. Zhang then wanted Tu Hai's job to run smoothly. He sold his car to help the publishing house pay the rights for her manga. Tin Hue informed Tu Hai of this good news. Tu Hai was very happy upon receiving it. She held a party for her 4 close friends to snap some photos. Baktang set up a scene from years ago but realized they were missing some co-stars. He asked Tu Hai to act the advertisement with him. Baktang had proposed to her and confessed his feelings there. Actually he already knew the answer but he wanted to give it a try. After all, Tu Hai couldn't forget Zhang then. Being rejected by Tu Hai, Baktang called Lu Kenwang and Zhang then to drink wine together. Baktang told him to return Tu Hai to him. Zhang then said coldly that she was always his. Zhang then afterwards confided with them. When he was young, his father died and his mother took his younger brother away for work. Zhang then thought that everyone would leave him alone and just Tu Hai was still with him. He thought that she was not suitable for him but, in the end, she was the missing piece he needed. It was real that she had changed according to what she liked. Baktang picked up the phone and he had phoned her before. She had overheard all. Baktang and Lu Kenwang were so drunk that they couldn't come back home. Tu Hai sat in front of Zhang then. She told him that he didn't need to do everything for her like that. Tu Hai stood up and walked away but Zhang then pulled her hand back. Seeing him crying, she turned her face and left away. In the hospital, he operated the surgery for the patient. When coming back, he saw Tu Hai sleeping in his room. Zhang then smiled lightly and sat down. They were together for long during that moment. Zhang then slept and hugged her. When she woke up and he asked her to make up. When she nodded, he let her go. Tu Hai focused all her energy on her manga project to earn back Zhang then's car. That night they congratulated Tin Hue for passing her master's degree. Tu Hai got drunk so Zhang then had to take her home. He held her hands tightly and sat next to her all night. The next morning, Tu Hai bought the breakfast foods. Zhang then wanted to marry Tu Hai, but she said no. He decided to go to the hospital and propose to her there. He thanked her for everything. Tu Hai told him to give her a proposal ring. He took the large cardboard and handed it to her. Tu Hai opened it and saw a balloon flying up. Just Jong then could come up with the idea of proposing like that. He wore the proposal ring for her, which meant that she had agreed. Jong then took her back home and he asked to go inside. Then he sat next to her comfortably after a hard-working day. Tu Hai's mom reminded her about a date, and introduced her to a guy who looked like a fairy tale. Jong then took the phone, and told Tu Hai's mom that they were dating now. She was so happy when having a son-in-law, who was both handsome and good like him. Not only that, he was also her destiny. Until night she couldn't sleep and Jong then sat next to her until she could sleep. Tu Hai scooted over to make room for Jong then to lie down next to her. Tu Hai wrapped her arms around him and asked if he regretted proposing to her. He said that he had met many girls who were taller and more beautiful than her, but he just loved only her. Then he gave her a romantic kissing love. The next morning, when the sun rises, Jong then prepared breakfast for Tu Hai. He woke her up to have breakfast together. They cooked, talked together, and then enjoyed it. It felt like a newly couple who had just got married. Tu Hai's parents surprised them with a visit, and her dad brought fine wine to welcome his son-in-law, making Jong then blush. Everyone had their own life, but all old students were both successful people. There was someone who was pleased, not there was not, but everyone hoped that their old friends would be happy.